Well, she was.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. The time is 6:30. It's May 20th. Newcastle City Council is in special session tonight. We met early to retire to executive session. There will be an executive session this evening to discuss with legal counsel pending or potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, subsection 1, paragraph I. Executive sessions are closed to the public. We will convene at 6:30 for approximately, how long? 20 minutes. We invite the city manager and city attorney to join us in the executive session. We'll be back. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just returned from an executive session where we discussed with legal counsel pending or potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1 paragraph I. No decisions or actions were taken in this executive session. The executive session is concluded and we will resume at 7 o'clock for our regular meeting. Thank you.
All right, can you hear me? Yes, great, thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Newcastle City Council regular meeting for May 20th. The time is 7 o'clock. Mayor Clark presiding. This meeting is being recorded and is also being simultaneously broadcast on our YouTube channel. A reminder, I'm sure a lot of you here are for public comment. Please sign up on the sheets over on the table. We will not be calling people out of the audience, but you can just sign up, please. And there's 2 public comments, one at the beginning and one at the end. Please join us for the flag salute. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Burford.
Here.
Councilmember Sherlock.
Here.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Quigg.
Here.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lacotia.
Here.
And Mayor Clark.
Here.
All here, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. We won't ask you to do that again. The next item on our agenda is agenda approval. Do I have any objections to approving the agenda as presented tonight? Okay, seeing none, show our agenda approved, or as approved as written. The next up is public comment. So the city clerk will hand me the public comment sheets. The rules for public comment, it will call your name. When you come to the podium, you'll have 3 minutes to state your whatever you'd like to talk about.
Don't forget Kirsten.
Oh, yes, and lost my train of thought. And then the buzzer will sound at the 3-minute point. We ask you to wrap up what you're saying. Before we start with public comment, our city attorney has a little word for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, the city is in election season, and I've been asked to provide comments regarding state law as it relates to the use of public facilities in election campaigns. In short, state law RCW 42.17a.555 prohibits the use of public facilities to assist a campaign for election of any person to office or to support or oppose a ballot proposition. The Public Disclosure Commission is the state agency with jurisdiction to enforce this statute. The Public Disclosure Commission interprets this statute very broadly to include a prohibition on using the public comment period during an agency's public meeting for these purposes. This applies to council member comments during a public meeting as well. To avoid any potential violations of this statute, please refrain from making comments that support or oppose a candidate for office or a ballot measure. Please have your comments address issues relating to city business or city functions, not campaign or election issues. This includes references to election or campaign materials such as flyers, letters, or similar communications. The city thanks you for keeping your remarks focused on city issues.
Thank you, city attorney. All right, we'll start with public comment. I'll just go in the order I've listed on the sheet here. The first person is Russell Bates. Come on up, Russell.
My name is Russell Bates. I've been a resident here for 34 years before we were Newcastle. I'd like to speak in favor of the pride flag issue. My main concern is that it's universally spreading around the country, and I don't see why we shouldn't also have it. And the opposite argument would be what it would cause if we do not have this. We would be kind of a holdout in the state where there's growing acceptance, even in our capital, and many cities around the state of Washington. I think it's becoming a predominant thing that is not really something to debate. This is something that I thought was finished 25 years ago. It's inclusion, it's welcoming, it shows that we are a city that accepts all people, and I think in most other places in the country where this has been adopted, it's been good for business, it's been good to recruit people, it's good to bring residents to your area that they know that it's a warm, welcoming, and kind place to live. So I would encourage the council to consider not what it means to pass the law, but what it would mean negatively to not continue and support this issue. So I would encourage supporting the pride flag. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Eddie Iglesias. Eddie?
Good evening, council members and fellow residents. My name is Eddie Iglesias. I'm a proud resident of the city residing in the China Creek neighborhood. And I'm here today not just to speak to the city council, but to speak to my neighbors, especially those who may be unsure or opposed to flying the pride flag in front of City Hall. I understand that some feel this decision is symbolic or even political, but I ask you to consider this. What if flying the pride flag, just one flag for 1 month, makes even one LGBTQ person in our city feel safer, more seen, more welcome? What if it saves lives? Because that's not hypothetical. According to the Trevor Project, LGBTQ youth who have access to affirming spaces, like cities that fly the pride flag, report significantly lower rates of depression and suicide. That's not politics, that's public health, that's humanity. Some have argued that that this council shouldn't set rules for future councils, but every resolution passed by this body sets a precedent. That's what leadership is, choosing to reflect the values of our community today. And if those values are inclusion, dignity, and compassion, values that resonate with our city's mission statement, then this resolution is exactly the kind of precedent that we should be proud to set. And Newcastle wouldn't be alone in this. Cities across the country, large and small, conservative and progressive, fly the pride flag each June. They're choosing to affirm that LGBTQ plus residents are part of the civic fabric. These cities aren't making political statements, they're making human ones. They're saying, you belong here. Newcastle has the opportunity to join them, not just in symbolism, but in solidarity. So I ask you, not just as a resident, but as a neighbor, if there's even a chance that this flag could make someone feel safe, supported, or seen, wouldn't that be worth it? Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Kim Van Etta. Kim?
Hi. Thank you for your time tonight, council members and members of our community. I'm Kim Van Etta, and I live in the Trails neighborhood. Our city's flag policy clearly states that flag poles owned and maintained by the city are expressions of the city council's official government speech. So it's clear that you don't have to forfeit your religious beliefs, nor are you promoting any specific lifestyle by voting to pass Resolution 2025-1042. You shouldn't tally public comments to declare a winner. When you vote on this resolution, you do so as stewards of our city's guiding vision. That vision describes Newcastle as a diverse, safe, tolerant, and economically viable community built on strong neighborhoods, family values, trust, respect for the environment, and an appreciation for our history. This aspirational statement outlines the desired future state of our city, its goals and its values. And as our elected officials, you are responsible for ushering this vision into reality. So tonight, I'm asking you to consider what our city's vision might ask of you in regards to this resolution. Our city's guiding vision might ask you to raise the pride flag, a symbol to represent Newcastle as the diverse, safe, and tolerant city that it strives to be for all residents. Our city's guiding vision might ask you to recognize that LGBTQ relationships are fundamentally about love and affection between human beings. This is the same love, care, and commitment required to sustain all healthy relationships and support strong neighborhoods. And I am asking you, as a guardian of our city's guiding vision, to take a stand against an annual rehashing of anti-gay sentiments and their damaging effects on our LGBTQ+ community. To those in the LGBTQ+ community here tonight and listening online, I wish you didn't have to wonder who you can be open with in our community. I wish acceptance were universal, But please know this, you are not alone. There are people in Newcastle who support you and celebrate you. Be yourself. Be proud.
Thank you, Kim. Beth McDaniel.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Beth McDaniel, and I reside in Drayton Park. I'm a citizen of Newcastle. When this issue came up last year, I initially had no problem with the mayor's sentiments that only government flags be flown. But then I listened to the audio, and I guess and video, of the June 4th meeting, and I had a change of heart. In your comments at that meeting, Mr. Mayor, you stated that under Short-Left v. Boston, if one non-government flag is raised, we need to raise everyone's flag, including the Hamas flag, MAGA flag, Antifa flag, and Trump flag. Respectfully and legally, thankfully, this is not legally correct. In Boston, the situation there is that they allowed any flag to be flown for whatever reason, without any objection or vetting until someone wanted to fly the Christian flag. And that's how it ended up in the Supreme Court. Last year, and this year, there was a motion by a city council member to raise the flag, and thus raising the flag is considered government speech. This, of course, was further codified by the recent adoption of a policy which states that only a city council member can make a motion to raise a non-government flag. I'm sure we would all agree that if a city council member made a motion to raise a MAGA flag, Trump flag, Antifa flag, or Hamas flag, we would ask for the resignation, or there would be a recall process. You also said on that video, or in that meeting, that there are people against the pride flag who are afraid to speak because their houses might be firebombed. Now, I know that that was hyperbole, and that you literally do not think that this community would firebomb houses who are against their views, but words matter, especially to a community that has experienced violence. Some examples of that are the Stonewall riots, the assassination of Harvey Milk, the shootings at the Pulse nightclub, and the egregious murder of Matthew Shepard. Words matter. As Kim stated, our city has a mission statement. A mission statement outlines a city's core purposes, goals, and intended impact on the community. It is a concise declaration that defines why the city exists, what it does, and what it aims to achieve. It serves as a guide for decision-making. And our city statement includes words of inclusion, equity, integrity, dignity, and respect. In short, I ask that the court adopt this resolution because it aligns with our mission statement, and words matter, and actions matter.
Thank you, Beth. Next up, Evan Adkins.
Hello, my name is Evan Adkins. I am a 3-year resident of the Hazelwood neighborhood. With regard to the resolution to raise the pride flag, as an ally, raising the pride flag is a gesture of acceptance. We show the LGBTQ+ community, our neighbors, that they are welcome and that they are wanted here. We show our support. We show that they are safe here. And we show pride, that we are glad, proud, and thankful to have them in our neighborhood. We also show compassion and recognition. When we raise that flag, we say, we see you. We understand to at least some degree the struggle you have been through. And you are valued here. We acknowledge their struggle, and we acknowledge our desire to do better. It is a small but important step toward fixing the wrong that has gone on too long. When, as last year, we are the only town that does not raise the flag, that lack of action is not a simple silence. It is a silence that speaks volumes. It sends a message directly opposite those I have already mentioned. As many reverends, ministers, and even Dr. Phil have said, if you are not part of the solution, then you are part of the problem. In that moment, when I saw the video of that meeting, I was ashamed to be part of this town. And I never want to feel that way again. I ask the council to have the courage to right last year's wrong. And I know that it is difficult to publicly change opinion as an individual or as a council as a whole, but it is vitally important. I celebrate, and I applaud anyone who votes in favor of this resolution, because it does take bravery and it does take courage. And I thank you. Because as a neighborhood, as a city, as a community, we are compassionate, and we do value all of our neighborhoods. And we say to the entire LGBTQ+ community that we are proud to have you here. So council members, I thank you for your support of Resolution 2025-1042. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Lynn Prevett. Lynn?
My name is Lynn Prevett. I live in the Olympus neighborhood for the last 30 years. The American flag represents 39.5% of the population in Newcastle that are Asian. The American flag represents 43% of the population in Newcastle that are white. The American flag represents 12% that are multiracial. And it even covers me. I wasn't born in America, but that flag covers me. Within each racial group, there are myriads of political beliefs, religious convictions, social mores, or moral values. We pledge allegiance to the flag because it's neutral. It represents us all of Newcastle. It is therefore inclusive. A flag that represents a small minority, by definition, is exclusive. I encourage the council to fly only flags that represent all of the people of Newcastle. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Next up, Nick Simmons. Nick?
Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Simmons. I reside in Renton, Washington, and I do business in Newcastle. I have friends in Newcastle. I have a community in Newcastle. And so even though I do not reside here, there's an important role that each and every single one of us have to play tonight. I'm going to share with you that the American flag is for everyone. The United States stands that we stand united. So it being for everyone, I want to share with you that the minute we take on the mindset of being divided, what that does for the forecast of our future, for generations to come behind us, means that that generation or that set of people that separate themselves from being united means they're special. But the truth of it is that it takes more bravery for us to be united together, not for us to be separate from one another. That flag stands for a lot of pain. That flag stands for a lot of hurt. That stands for colonies, people, races, genders coming together under one nation, being united, having strong, tough, and courageous conversations to one another, and looking at your neighbor and saying, "How are you today?" Not that we're separated. There was once a man about 60 years ago who said, "I have a dream." And his dream was because races were the matter. So if it's not races, then what's the next thing that's gonna come? Is it because we believe pride? Well, that will fall. We all know the saying that pride comes before the fall. And that will resonate into our children's children. I think it's time that we stand up and we understand that us separating us does not help, but us having the courageous conversations to look one another in the eye and say, hey, you're loved here, you're appreciated, and in this community, you matter. And it doesn't need to be displayed by a flag. It needs to be displayed by having honest conversations, by looking at one another and saying, giving a hug and saying, I love you, even though I don't know you. So this simple, us dividing each other behind a flag is unacceptable. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Nick. Next up, Jillian. I'm sorry, I can't read the writing. Kusi? I'm saying that right?
No.
Excuse me.
It's all good. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jillian Creashy, and I'm the pastor of Mission Gathering, a Christian faith community just across the border of Newcastle in Bellevue. I come on behalf of my community who view our cities as neighbors and who believe that issues of inclusion and belonging have no borders. As such, I stand firmly in support of the resolution to hang the Pride flag during Pride Month each year. And I admit that I come to you a bit tired tonight. As a queer person myself, advocating for something as simple as a pride flag feels like my life is on the line over and over again. I trust that you know that LGBTQ plus youth are 4 times more likely than their peers to attempt suicide. And it's exhausting to constantly have to wonder whether or not we are fully welcomed in a space. A pride flag is such a simple gesture that goes a long way, and it's life-affirming care. But aside from that, I also come to you as a Christian pastor who is also equally as weary from seeing the ways in which some have twisted the word of God to be a message of fear and hate and exclusion. I want to be clear that this perspective is not the only Christian perspective, and it is a dangerous perspective to hang our political hats on. Did you know that religiously affiliated LGBTQ plus youth are 70% more likely to die by suicide than LGBTQ plus youth with no religious affiliation? Doctrines of hate in the name of God are literally killing us and have no place in our politics. I stand before you as a queer pastor, out and proud and full of love, ordained by the Disciples of Christ Christian Church. My wife is also not only Christian, but a pastor of a Methodist church in Shoreline. And I have friends and colleagues who are queer and ordained in the United Church of Christ, the Metropolitan Community Church, the Evangelical Lutheran Church, the Episcopal Church, the Presbyterian Church, all around the country and the world. Christians are affirming the belovedness and full inclusion of the LGBTQ plus community and are beginning the work of repairing the harm that has been caused in the name of God. I've been repeating a prayer all night, which is actually a quote from the civil rights activist Polly Murray. Hope is a song in a weary throat. I stand before you now with my own weary throat, but I too sing a hopeful song. There is a movement of healing afoot in the Christian community, and I hope that the city of Newcastle joins in that work. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. Next up, Lisa Horst Clark. Lisa.
Hello. My name is Reverend Lisa Horst Clark. I'm the lead pastor of First Congregational Church in Bellevue, which is an open and affirming church that affirms LGBTQ folks are beloved of God. And I also live not too far from here. So my kiddo is a 4th grader at Hazelwood Elementary School and got to visit this chamber a few years ago in order to learn about how we're a community together. And I have to say, I heard all about your spinny chairs here. It was a big talk among the elementary school set. And so what is it that we're teaching our kids? We teach our kids values of understanding and listening across difference. We teach kids about how we can learn from the richness of others' experience and teach kids how to show kindness and respect. And so I want to ask you to fly the pride flag this June to affirm those values, that we are a better community for affirming our diversity together. In my congregation, I know that there are many LGBTQ folks that are fearful of the cruel rhetoric in our wider world. And our LGBTQ young people in particular are looking for signs that our community supports them. And a flag is a way that we can signal belonging. I also want to name as a false binary between being LGBTQ and military service. In my congregation, we have a number of folks who are LGBTQ and are veterans or currently serving in the military, who we lift up in prayer. And we do not honor the service of these LGBTQ service members to deny part of their identity. I know that as a pastor, I believe no matter someone's gender identity or expression or who they love, each are a beautiful part of God's diverse and amazing creation. That's my faith. But as a citizen, I believe that we are a country and a community that's better as a place of inclusion, learning, and affirmation. So thank you for I hope that as a community of gathering together, you can help support our inclusion through a flag here in Newcastle. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Stuart Blocker.
My name is Stuart Blocker. I'm a 43-year resident of Newcastle. I'm a Christian. I'm a surviving Vietnam veteran. I appreciate all of my neighbors and the people in the room tonight. Frankly, I respect every one of you. There's one God, one true God, the creator of everything. It's important to make sure that you're loving and worshiping the right God. I think that our nation, our state, and our city is struggling in its personality. We've gotten, someone cited Martin Luther King a little earlier, and I think he was right. People need to be judged on their character. It's not about their gender or who they love or who they sleep with or whatever they identify as, but who they are as in person, a character. I think we've gotten way off the mark by gender identity, skin color, ethnicity, all kinds of things in this nation, this state, and this city. And I think it doesn't do anybody any good. I think that there's much claim here that somehow that Newcastle seems to be a not inclusive community. I don't believe that's true. I think we do include everyone. I live 2 houses down from Ariana, and I understand that her daughter's identifying as, I don't entirely understand, but I've shared plums off my plum tree with them in the years past. I think they're neighbors. I love them. I don't think we have to go into displaying special interest flags to make people feel included in Newcastle. People are included in Newcastle. It is a diverse place. There are all kinds of differences. There are people without limbs. There are people with cancer. There are people that suffer from all kinds of things. I don't think we have to divide people based on having or not having flown a flag here at City Hall. I think if people want to fly the pride flag in their own private property, so long as there's not hate speech going along with it somehow, fly it there. I don't think we should fly it at City Hall. I think city business involves police, fire, roads, utilities, the main things of governance. Which brings me to why I wanted to sign up, and I'll run out of time, no doubt. I went to the meeting last month, which was a public meeting. I had a question to answer, but I had to go work at church and I had to leave. So I could only stay a little over an hour. I didn't get to ask my question, so here's my question for city business, rather than so much time taken on what I feel is frankly not roads, fire, etc. We talk a lot about Newcastle Way and improving a segment of it here, right in the center of town. But I would submit we have two other major roads in this city that stand in line way before the additional road work that could be done on Newcastle Way. And that's primarily Golf Course Road from the YMCA and the Notch apartment building to the Golf Course Road and the city limits. That road is a hazard. It's a hazard for pedestrians, it's a hazard for bicyclists, it's a hazard for drivers, and it's exceptionally hazardous because of all the dead snags that hang over the road. And I don't have to go into the...
I have to ask you to wrap it up, Stuart.
Okay. So that street, as well as May Valley Road, are inadequate and deserve the city's consideration for road work long before Newcastle Way. I'd like an answer to that at some point in the future.
Thank you, Stuart. Ed Flash, come on up, Ed.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Flash. I've been a Newcastle resident, proud Newcastle resident since 2016. And I live in the Milepost neighborhood. I'm going to talk about an experience that I had just about 3 weeks ago. And it's something that I would actually really hope it's not a great experience that everybody has the opportunity to do at some point in their life. I was in Austria, and my wife chose to do this on her birthday. We visited a concentration camp. Concentration camp where I have had relatives that were killed at that concentration camp. And I felt the hate in the air. I felt the hate in the air. I felt the hate in the air. I felt the hate in that air. I felt the hate in the air. I felt the hate in the air. And 80 years later, I felt the hate in the air. Okay? What happened there was that people didn't embrace diversity. People didn't embrace differences. People didn't embrace a society where we needed to welcome those people, make them feel that they were welcome, and make them feel that they were part of that society. Okay? I'm not saying that's going to happen to Newcastle. I'm not saying that's going to happen to the US. But when I look at the pride flag, I don't think just about supporting our LGBT community. I think about how that represents diversity, how that represents the differences in who we are, and how that represents we as a community can be welcoming to everybody. Okay? A lot of people here are talking about, oh, we shouldn't fly it just because of those very reasons. I would argue that we should fly it because of those very reasons, because it is a symbol of us welcoming people in our community that may be different than who we are, and we don't need to assume that everybody's all the same, right? We are all different. This whole country was built on diversity. This country was built on our differences. So I ask you, I plead with you that that symbol should be something that Newcastle embraces, that that's something that we should, not just this year, and I would endorse this every year to come, support flying the pride flag in Newcastle as a symbol of how diverse and how welcome we are of a community. So please consider that, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ed. Sherrod Villanova, I think I said that right. Come on, Sherrod.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, council. Good evening, citizens of Newcastle. Hello there. I am a proud father, husband, and a United States veteran. And I would just like to say that I am against the flying of the LGBTQIA plus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera flag. Did you know that there are over 30 allied flags? Now, which ones are we going to fly? Are we going to fly the lesbian flag, the gay flag, the asexual flag, the trans femme flag, the trans masculine flag, the bisexual flag? There's plenty of flags we could fly. And I just wonder, why is this symbol, which in my opinion is one of the most divisive symbols in our country today, when we are already connected by one great flag, indivisible by God? And it's so interesting to see that we all stand up before the entire thing started and we all pledge allegiance to this one American flag. And yet we still are arguing over which should be flown for which month. We are already united. We are all human under God. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherrod.
Mayor? Mayor, we need to extend public comment.
Thank you, City Manager. Can I have a motion to extend public comment additional 30 minutes?
I move to extend public comment additional 30 minutes.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you, City Manager, for reminding us. Public comment is extended. Next up is Jessica Villanova. Jessica.
Hello, my name is Jessica Villanova. I'm a mother and a wife and a Christian woman. To quote the great orator and pastor, Jackie Hill Perry, who interestingly was a lesbian woman who encountered the love of Jesus, which transforms us in our sin, opposed to affirming us in our sin, and is now married to a great man of God with 4 beautiful children of her own. She said, "No one has the right, the authority to decide what is good except God. Why? Because he's God. Also because he's good. The whole word of God is true. Yes, even verses we may not understand or like, such as Leviticus 18:22 and Romans 1. Only the God who created us knows what is best for us, even when we don't know what is best for ourselves. Jesus was clear in Matthew 19 when he said God made us male and female. He has called the two together in marriage, and what God has joined together, let not man separate. Every council member here will stand before God and give an account for the way they've led or misled God's children and his people. I hope you will consider our stance, but more importantly, I pray you will consider the God who came in flesh and died to give us power over confusion and over the enemy who tells us we are not who God created us to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Rosalind, I don't have a last name. Rosalind?
Hello, my name is Rosalind Gunther, and I'm 12, and I wanted to talk about raising the pride flag this June. Raising the pride flag means and symbolizes everyone here in Newcastle, everyone. Raising the pride flag makes people feel welcome, invited, and safe. Isn't that what we want for the people and neighbors here in Newcastle? Raising the pride flag will help those in our community who feel like they can be who they want without feeling forgotten and looked down upon. We want to be a welcoming city, not one who excludes people just because of who they identify as. And also, it's very inappropriate how we talk about children who identify as somebody, and it's just like, you shouldn't talk about a child in front of the whole town and call them out for who they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalind. Christian Krutzinger. Christian?
Hello, my name is Christian Krutzinger, and I live in the Newport Woods neighborhood. It is my profound love for human beings that calls me to stand here and advocate that we acknowledge and support communities that have historically been and continue to be targets of discrimination and hatred. For true freedom is only found when we have the courage to leave our fear and discomfort and be in community together. Agreements, disagreements, the whole mess, tied together by our humanity, by our shared experiences as much as our shared differences. Everyone deserves to exist, more importantly, to belong. Every single person. I cannot express the immeasurable sadness it brings me to hear some of our community members, convinced of their purity of faith, hypocritically cherry-pick Bible verses for weaponization against our LGBTQIA+ neighbors. Let's call it what it is, fear that has been sadly weaponized through faith into bigotry. Leviticus 19:19, do not wear clothing woven of two kinds of material. If that's the case, then every person in this room is in trouble. Leviticus 19:27 instructs men, do not cut the hair at the sides of your head or clip off the edges of your beard. A lot of y'all's supercuts are looking pretty high and tight this evening, and your face is pretty well shaven. Now you may be thinking, hey, you're calling us hypocrites for being hateful, but aren't you being hateful? I'm certain that it feels that way to you. But if you're courageous enough to look inward, dig deep, and reflect, you might find that your discomfort grows from a different root. I do not hate you. I do not hate anyone in this room. I find some of your words harmful and your actions against other humans. They sadden me beyond measure. But I remain eternally hopeful that you can find your way to a place within where coexistence alongside a diverse array of people feels safe to you. In the meantime, I respectfully request that the council resolve to raise the pride flag this June and every June henceforth until discrimination against historically marginalized communities has been eradicated. Oh, and to this Council Member Quigg, I call upon you to revisit Proverbs 26:28 and 12:22. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Tiffany Gunther. Tiffany?
Sorry, I should be used to this by now, but I'm still nervous. Thank you for serving on our council. I know it's not an easy endeavor. I'm mostly repeating what I emailed you all a couple days ago, added a little bit to it, but I'm going to get vulnerable, but I grew up as a strict Lutheran. I was baptized, graduated commencement. I was a junior high youth pastor, and I was very uncomfortable around gay people. I was firmly and kind of extremely anti-abortion. As I expanded my career, I realized it's not just a topic we talked about in Bible study and plan how to convert people from their sinful ways, but it's real lives from people who are rooted in real love, a love I didn't know existed. I learned that nothing is black or white, right or wrong, but a huge grayscale, or a rainbow in this theme. I learned that my love for them, not the sin, was actually causing immense harm. My attempt at following God's calling was hurting people who have to already fight to exist in public spaces. That it wasn't actually God's calling, but the indoctrination of imperfect people, that loving someone is accepting all of them without an agenda and without judgment. My largest motivator on why I went from one side to another is because the rate of attempting suicide amongst our LGBTQ teens is more than 4 times the rate of suicide attempts among all US teens, due to societal and relationship challenges and lack of community support. Research has consistently shown that when we show support and acceptance, their mental health improves, they have greater self-acceptance, and the rates of suicide decline. This is a huge issue everywhere and in our town. It's not talked about, but it needs to be. Just because it's not talked about doesn't mean it's not happening. Last city council meeting, my daughter's teacher was going to come and support her. She just spoke a couple people ago. While she was in our parking lot here at City Hall, she received a call from her trans teen that they were being harassed and bullied at that Factoria Mall. And they were scared for their life. She had to rush to help her child instead of be here. By raising the flag, we let this targeted group of people know that we see them, we see the outcasted behavior that's pushed at them, and we show them that we care enough to let them know visually and loudly that they are safe in this town and that the city has their back. If we don't raise the flag, how will we actually tell those marginalized people that they matter? Because if simply saying I love you on the streets and treating our neighbors with kindness was actually happening, we wouldn't be having this debate. This is clearly still an issue for the amount of passion and heated division this has caused. More reason why the flag needs to be flown, as I can nearly guarantee that the majority in attendance, including myself, would not be here if this was for the Canadian flag, Earth Day, prisoners of war, or really any other flag. I'm on my last 2 sentences. So thank you for taking the time, for reading all the emails you've gotten, and for listening to all of us. I hope one day soon we can see the energy this is taking from us all, let oppressed people feel seen, and then focus more on street safety, fun events, renters' rights, and the good old boring topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Rafael Alvarez.
Hello. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Rafael Alvarez. I'm a child of God. I'm a Christian. I'm a loved, respected member of the Eden Church, and I'm an American. My parents are Mexican immigrants that came to this country because Mexico couldn't give my parents what this country, America, what that flag represents. That flag represents us all. I don't get the division. It represents us all. It doesn't care what your sexual identity is, what skin tone you have, or what your spiritual faith. It represents us all. And I just feel with these other flags, we're dividing ourselves. We need to be together. That's what that flag represents. So I'm for the American flag and the American flag only. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael. Pamela Filetto, I said that right? Come on up.
My name is Pamela Filetto. I live in the Donegal Park area. And I just want to say that flag represents freedom from religious persecution. I mean, that's one of the freedoms under the flag. I'm a music teacher. I've been teaching children for almost 30 years. I have a beautiful job and I teach beautiful children. When they feel seen and loved and valued as who they are, it makes all the difference in the world. We need to lift up communities that have been marginalized and seen injustice. This is a way to do that. By not flying the pride flag, we're giving a very different message. Right? So the City Council, your mission says you're here to serve the community in a manner that fosters a sense of community and ensures equity, integrity, dignity, and respect. Your vision is for a diverse, safe, and tolerant community. Why would you not raise the pride flag? Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Sophia Stott. Sophia?
Hi, my name is Sophia. I'd like to thank the mayor and all the other council members who voted last June to put down the pride flag. And I would like to say thank you to them again. And I would like you to, I oppose the pride flag. I would not like it to be raised this year. It does not represent us all. It represents those in their community. And personally, I do not find it right that we must have that flag above our city building that flag is supposed to represent, the flags up there are supposed to represent everyone, like the American flag, and I believe that that flag does not represent everyone. It does not represent me. It does not represent my family. It does not represent my friends. So my name is Sophia, and I do not support the pride flag being flown above the city council. If you would like to fly the pride flag at your house, that is amazing. That's good for you, but not in our city areas or our government areas, because that is wrong. Because that flag, those flags are supposed to be for everyone, and it does not support me. It does not support my family. So why are we flying it up there if it does not support Newcastle residents? That's my question. And I would like to ask you to vote no for the pride flag. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Darren Stott.
That was my daughter, and she's running for mayor in the next election and then eventually president, so I'm just kidding. Right off the bat, yeah, so this obviously is a politically divisive issue. Otherwise, we would have such an awesome turnout tonight, right? It's also a religiously divisive issue. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many clergy here tonight. So it's a divisive issue. And the American flag is not. And if you're going to fly a flag in our city that you know is going to cause division, tonight's attendance shows that. The last meeting we had last year, it shows that. I don't think hate is in the air. I think that there's a difference of opinion. I don't think anybody hates anybody here tonight. I think we all love each other in a weird way, you know. Maybe we're not buying gifts for each other, but I know if we could all just get to know each other, we'd probably like each other, right? So this isn't about us hating each other. This is just about when you drive by City Hall, you're like, that's my city, that's my flag. Yeah, I can't say that about the rainbow flag. It's pretty, I like all the colors, right? But there's an ideology attached with it that doesn't represent Christians, okay? Or Muslims, or Orthodox Jews, or Catholics. But it does represent perhaps some, you know, progressive folk. So I get it. If that's your flag, I get why you would want to fly it. But it's not my flag. It's not a lot of people's flag. And it is divisive. And that sucks. Man, it sucks having division in our city. Like, I hate that. Like, it bums me out to know that there are people in this city that don't like me because of my religious take on this. Like, that stinks. Like, I love our chamber. I love Frosty Barrel. I loved the Facebook group I was a part of. Right? So it's divisive. And so I wish there was a way around this. I wish we could all just maybe just all pray together or something. But I'm going to ask that that you honor everybody with one flag. And I just want to applaud all the kids that got up here. They're so brave, all the children. There's 2 of them, but they're both super brave. And every person that's speaking up, thank you for being here. Newcastle's a great city. And I hope that we can really move through this and honor each other, okay? All right, thank you, Mayor, thank you. Council, thank you. City staff.
Thank you, Darren. Larry and Sherry, Stroud? Stewart, I'm sorry, excuse me, that was, come on up.
I'm Larry Stewart. I'm a civil engineer, and I go to a lot of city halls to try to get permits for my various clients. And anyway, when I go there, I don't see the pride flag flown at any other city hall that I know of. Maybe you do, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it at Issaquah. I haven't seen it at Kirkland. I haven't seen it in Woodinville, and I haven't seen it at the permit center for King County. And I don't see why we should fly it here in this city. And I'm not a member of this. I don't live in this city. I live in Issaquah. And anyway, the city hall there doesn't fly a permit flag. I don't see why we have to fly one here, you know, just to be different. And anyway, that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. That concludes this paper version of our sign-up. Do we have anybody online, City Clerk or Director Bronze?
Yeah, is it Diane? Is that the one? Diane, is that who you have? There's one person.
Okay, let's bring her on.
Diane, if you can hear me, please offer your public comment now and unmute yourself.
Hi, sorry, I had to step away from my laptop for a few minutes. My comment would be that I believe the flag should be flown, the LGBTQ plus flag, because it's not a religious thing. It's about people who live in our community. Some people were saying the American flag represents all of us, but I think there might be some of us who are a little worried about that right now and questioning it. And so I would just like to say that I think to support people who are feeling marginalized right now, it would be a wonderful gesture to fly it. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Anybody else? No. Okay. That concludes our first public comment. As a reminder, if you'd like to speak later in the meeting, there is an additional sign-up sheet over on the dais or at the end of the meeting. Next on our agenda is ceremonial presentations. We don't have any, however. So next up is council comment. Councilmember Sherlock, why don't you start us since you're online? Start us out, please.
Thank you. I don't have a lot of prepared comments, but just want to thank everyone who came out and spoke at the podium or online. Really appreciate the engagement from our community.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Burford, go right ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. And again, we have this huge crowd. And I also want to give a big kudos to each and every one of you who just spoke, and including the two brave girls, brave children. And so also I'd like to share something tonight. I'd like to take this moment. As you a lot of you may noticed May 15th was National Peace Officers Memorial Day. So we took time to honor the fallen and the brave men and women in law enforcement who gave their lives in the line of duty. A dedication and the ultimate sacrifice that will never be forgotten. I believe previously the flag at Newcastle City Hall was at a half staff, was at half. So in honor of a Peace Officers Memorial Day, as we remember Deputy Rich Herzog. So I just want to include this in my comment. And also this week is Public Works Week from May 18th to 24th. We are really, so please visit the Newcastle City's government website. As we are shining a spotlight on the dedicated staff behind the scenes who keep our city running strong. And Newcastle's Public Works Department is the largest in the city, and so they wear so many hats, from maintaining roads, bridges, and parks, to managing stormwater systems, city facilities, emergency operations, and IT services. So they also partner with outside agencies. And utility provides to ensure our community stays connected and safe. So I would like to take this moment. Please let's give a big thank you to the team that keeps our Newcastle moving forward every day. And also, I just want to give a big kudos to our director, Jeff Browns, and also his team. Actually got kudos from the state level. So regarding during snow days, so they cleared our roads and keeping our community safe and running smoothly. I want to say thank you. So that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Charbonneau, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you folks for coming tonight. Appreciate folks participating in person and virtually. It was great to see folks at the town hall. I'm glad folks could join us at Risden. I really appreciate folks coming with that setting we have of having more than one a year. I know I think it's the second year where we've had more than one a year, and I really enjoyed and hope to continue that moving forward. So thank you for coming. I had a good meeting with Parks and Trails Planner Hutchins, Community Development Director Fitzgibbon, and City Manager Pingle talking about, and one of our citizens talking about arborist reports and how we can care for the trees in our city. So I'm looking forward to expanding on that. I had a really good meeting with Rick Nye of one of our Bellevue firefighters, talking about they just had a new chief come in, Chief Dave Tate, and City Manager Pingle had met with him as well, looking in and offering potentially CPR classes at the Newcastle Library. I've gone through it myself with as a coach in the Wren School District, and I just found that class very meaningful, and I think it's a great thing for anyone to take and do is CPR and AED in case someone does have a cardiac event. Last thing was I went to the memorial of Senator Bill Ramos, who was a state senator in our neighboring legislative district this past weekend with County Councilmember Dunn, and our entire legislative delegation was there. I was really fortunate to work really closely with Senator Ramos for a couple of years, and sometimes upwards of 10 plus hours a week with him, and I learned a lot from him, and it's given me a lot of my ethos of service and making sure I enjoy this work. Worked for the U.S. Forest Service for 30 plus years before getting into politics on the Issaquah City Council and then the state senate. So I'll miss him dearly, and I try to honor him a lot with what I talk about. And then my one item I had, and I'm going to share this with the council at advice of the city manager when I met with him. So the Fairfax Paper Health Center is seeking letters of support from different city councils in the region. They currently offer mental health services in Kirkland and Bellevue. They're trying to get cities in the area to sign on to letters of support so they can expand their crisis care services. So we're at a real dearth of availability for crisis beds for people that are in a mental health crisis. So County Councilmember Dunn has signed on to it. There's some other great entities that have already signed on to it. What the city manager recommended was if folks are in consensus of just saying City of Newcastle supports there being more crisis care services in the region, we can sign on to that letter and send it out. So is he nodding heads? We can.
Are there any council objections to doing what Councilmember Charbonneau suggests? Okay, seeing none, work with the city manager to create a letter or whatever you got to do.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and they gave us a template on that. I appreciate it. That was I know it's a little bit of a funky format, but that's what we're recommending. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Quigg?
Thank you for that, Paul. I drive here and I often don't know what I'm going to say during the council comments, and it just kind of comes to me. I found out we lost a great man today, passed away, Norm Peterson. None of the young kids know who Norm Peterson is, but anybody born in the 70s knows. Norm was from a great show named Cheers, right? All the officers, as I walked up the steps, they knew who he was. That reminds me of Newcastle, right? Cheers was a place, my family, every Thursday night, my little sisters and my mom and dad and I would gather around, we'd watch Cheers and watch Norm make funny jokes. And it was a special place, it was a small special place in a big city where everybody got together, everybody knows your name, and you kind of shared that time together. We're gonna get through tonight. The city's gonna power on. Larry and Sherry, thank you for coming down here to Newcastle and meeting us. Usually I recognize most everybody in the room, but you're some new faces. It's nice to see some new faces from Issaquah. My family considered moving to Issaquah. We came to Newcastle because we liked how small it was. And interestingly enough, hundreds and hundreds of survey respondents, when asked how do they describe Newcastle, what they like, guess what their number one word was, Sherry? It was small, and then safe, and then quiet. We're not quiet tonight. It's going to be quite a meeting, but I just want to say, first of all, George Wendt, God rest your soul. Thank you for all you did for the Quigg family and all of us to enjoy your show. And I just hope that everybody here in the room and all of Newcastle realizes we're going to get through this. You're going to keep going to Tapatio and Safeway and QFC and Locachone and Frosty Barrel. And we're going to see people. We know each other's names. We're going to get through this. We're going to love each other through this. I know we're divided maybe on some issues, but generally speaking, Larry and Sherry, Newcastle is a very small, loving community, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. And thank you to all of you that came tonight to both this meeting and also to the town hall. We've had 2 packed events in a row. So this is a great trend. I hope it continues. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Griffin.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Welcome to everybody. It's great to see a big crowd out there. We enjoy having you here. It's interesting to hear what you had to say. We're always open to hearing that. Most of you know that I'm a numbers guy, and so for the last couple of days, I've spent reading your emails. Most of you that sent emails, I've read them that come to the council. I haven't answered any of them, but I've been keeping track of what goes on. And I find that there was 190 emails came through that I read every one of them. And I made a mark for, okay, the ones are for and the ones against. And I come up with some interesting numbers. I come up with 118 people that were against flying the flag. I come up with 72 people who were for flying the flag. And the percentage of that is just like the percentage was 5 years ago, or just not quite 5 years ago, when we had a big to-do about a utilities tax. And we were about as excited and as divided as we are right now with the utilities tax. But it went to a vote, and the vote was 60-40 against having a utilities tax. And that was not really accepted very well with some of our council members and some of our staff, but we lived through it, and we've survived through it. We've been pretty well since then. Our finances are in pretty good shape. So I think that by coming through that, we did well. I just want to let you know that what the emails I've been looking at are representative of what the entire city voted as a percentage-wise, 60-40. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I also want to express my thank you to all of you to come here, and also all those who made their public comment. This is all I had to say, but then after hearing Councilmember Griffin, I just want to say that Newcastle is a population of 13,000, 14,000 people, and I don't believe 190 emails is representative of all. we need to come up with a better method, which I have some ideas which I'm going to discuss with the city manager, and I already discussed with some of the staff members in the past, that we need to come up with a more digital way of doing some kind of a poll where everybody can express their vote on to all the major issues that we have in Newcastle. But I do not believe we should go by these 190 statistics where the population is 14,000. So thank you.
Okay, next up is mayor report. So I have a couple things. Many of you, especially if you live in Newcastle, may have gotten a postcard in the mail recently about work that's going to happen all summer on Coal Creek Parkway. So be aware that there's going to probably be disruptions. I don't know the exact start date, but they're going to be doing the sewer work that they've been advertising for a long time, digging up part of Coal Creek and the nature area to do that work. So just want to give you all a heads up. And if city manager, if we can make sure when that happens, we get that on our social media, please. The second thing is last year at this time, we had a pinning ceremony for Vietnam veterans, for Vietnam era veterans. So if you're a veteran or if you know somebody who was a veteran between 1955 and 1975, that program is still open until Veterans Day this year. So thank you, Councilmember Sherlock put a notice in her newsletter, and I got some responses. So I'm hoping that we'll gather enough people that we can have another ceremony in a month or two. So I'd really encourage you, please, it's a big audience, so I'm using the bully pulpit too. If you know neighbors who are Vietnam era veterans, doesn't have to be in Newcastle either, right? We just want to recognize these people who deserve this. So please spread the word. You get a hold of me if you have questions. Be happy to help you out with that. And then Monday, of course, is Memorial Day, a very special day in our country's history, where we honor all of those people who allowed us to be here tonight, frankly, to have these discussions, right? People who gave their ultimate sacrifice. So there's hundreds of thousands over the years. And so please take a moment on Monday, whatever you happen to be doing, to just pause and say thank you, to show some respect to those men and women. There's plenty of things going on around in the area. Tahoma National Cemetery is very beautiful. They decorate every grave with a flag, and it's supposed to be pretty nice weather. It's a beautiful scenery with a mountain in the background, and you can't go wrong. If you're more local, you're welcome over to Issaquah Hillside Cemetery, where my VFW post is having a service at 10 a.m. You're all welcome, and be glad to see you there. Okay, that's it for my mayor's comments. Next up, we have a Q1 financial report. Director Chambers, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The full report is in the packet, so hopefully everyone's had a chance to review it. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things that I thought were worth mentioning tonight, and specifically, when we're looking at the general fund, almost all of our revenue categories are above budget through April, which is really strong, better than what we saw last year. Specifically, development is one I wanted to highlight. The Altair project has been moving along, so we've been seeing a lot of those permit revenues coming in, and they're still continuing to come in through this month, so that's good. Looking at investment interest, we are on pace to make budget in almost all the funds, but as a total overall, we should hit what we forecasted. And that also leads into, on the consent agenda, one of the items is a request to enroll in the separately managed accounts program that we spoke about before. And the goal, I just wanted to highlight, the goal for that is to lock in the interest rates that we're seeing right now over the next couple of years. We know that LGIP is going to go down as they reduce the federal funds rate. I don't know how quickly that's going to happen, but we do know it's going to go down, and so that would drop our investments in LGIP. However, enrolling in the longer term portfolio would allow us to lock in those rates for at least a couple of years. So that's just a little bit for that. As far as expenditures in general fund, we've mostly been seeing our salaries and benefits, which are on pace, membership renewals, and contracted services that are typically done on a regular basis. Operating costs have been pretty low for other things like supplies. And then one thing within the other funds, in the street fund, I've noticed Now, our motor vehicle fuel tax, that's something that was in the legislature this past session that they were talking about alternatives for that. We have seen that drop pretty significantly over the last 2 months, so that's something I'm looking into to see if other cities are experiencing a similar drop as well, or if it's something particular to us that I need to investigate a little bit further. But that's something that's on my radar that I'll be looking into. And with that, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those now.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Director Jane. Any insight into our run rate for the admissions tax, the golf course?
Yes, so we received the first quarter payment. It arrived the beginning of May, and so it's not included in the next snapshot that will be discussed, but it was around $44,000, which is less than a quarter of the year. However, that would cover January, February, and March, so we would expect that it would be lower because they don't have the level of activities that they do in the summertime.
Councilmember Charbonneau, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so, and thank you, Director Chambers. So we received 39.4% of our actual from development revenue that we had budgeted for. I guess I was just curious, is that normal for a Q1, or is that something that, does it kind of fluctuate throughout the year normally based on the seasons, or is that, are we on a track to potentially go over 100% of
Great
what
question.
would be budgeted? Yeah.
I would say as far as development revenue goes, there's no normal right now because everything's been fluctuating so much basically since before COVID. However, looking at the last couple of years, this is a much stronger start to the year that we've seen in development revenue. We've seen in the past, a lot of developers have been kind of holding off to wait and see what's going on with pricing and things like that. And now, it could be the threat of tariffs, it could be other things going on in the economy that are kind of pushing these projects forward right now. But even just looking at April numbers that have come in, as of April, we're hitting 60%. And like I said, it's still coming in May. So yes, I think to answer your question, we should definitely meet budget. And it's particularly for those permits for those development, the properties that are actually going into building.
Any other questions go ahead, Councilmember Quigg.
Thank you, Director. My question to you, and then I'll have a statement, is how common is this? The reason I ask is this, and I talked to the city manager about this yesterday. I wanted to highlight, and I'm not going to raise it off the consent agenda. He told me to keep it short and sweet. This is not common. What we're doing in this city is not the ordinary, if I'm not mistaken. We are doing a great job financially, thanks to the hard work of the folks, the staff here. And again, my question is going to be to you is how common is that? Because if I'm not mistaken, a lot of companies, a lot of families, and a lot of municipalities and countries are struggling financially. And can you just kind of, based on what you're seeing out there with the neighboring cities that have been referenced earlier, how are they doing compared to you, Lindsay, in terms of managing our budgets?
I think that's a great question. It's not something I pay attention to on a regular basis. I try to focus on how Newcastle's doing compared to our past. But I would say, something we've talked about a lot is that Newcastle's been in a really good position because we have not had to pull all those additional revenue levers that we've discussed that a lot of the other cities have. A lot of them have done all of those things and they're still having trouble making their budget. So we are in a good position in that way that we still have options available to us should we need to use them in the future.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, thank you, Director Chambers. Appreciate your time. Moving on, council committees. Any council committees? No council committees. Very well. Regional committees. Councilmember Charbonneau.
Yeah, it was just real quick. I think I attended the Public Issues Committee General Policy May 14th. I guess there were some other updates, but the big takeaways are August, you'll be voting on the Parks Levy in King County, which that working group did a lot to try to push more money for municipalities to come back from that. And then on the ballot in November will be an EMS levy, Emergency Medical Services. They gave us quite a lengthy presentation on that. I'm happy to share those notes with anyone, but those are the two big takeaways.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, commission reports. There's a CAC or Community Activities Commission report in the agenda packet. So if anybody wants to read that, please go ahead. City manager report is next. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Just a couple of brief things. I wanted to just highlight that at the June 3rd meeting, we'll have Shelley Helder, our state lobbyist, here to do a post-legislative session report. And we have invited our legislative delegation to come as well. The only one that's confirmed so far is Representative Zahn. Shelley will be much more thorough in her report, but big news for the city coming out of the legislative session was that we were able to secure $335,000 in the state capital budget for the Lake Bourne Park North End Access Project. That will create a turnaround and additional parking at the end of 129th, which is problematic currently. And so that's exciting for us. And then I did just want to point out, just lost my note. Hold on. I think Councilmember Charbonneau mentioned Bellevue Fire, and I'll be working with Interim Chief Tate to make sure we can get some of those classes here in Newcastle as far as CPR. They also will have, they're hosting 2 informational workshops on wildfire preparedness. This was a much hotter topic as we experienced wildfires in the last year in California, and there were a lot of questions from the community about, okay, we live in a very wooded area, what about us? And that's Bellevue Fire trying to be responsive to those questions and concerns, and so they're holding 2 workshops on wildfire urban interface, and those will be in June, and we'll make sure we have those up on social media and get those announced throughout the community as they come up. That's all I got.
Questions for the city manager? Anybody? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, city manager. Okay, next up is the consent agenda. Are there any alterations or additions, or excuse me, not additions, alterations to consent agenda? Anybody?
Can we pull 9.6, please?
Item 9.6. Very well, item 9.6 becomes general business item 12.2. Okay, any objections to approving the consent agenda as modified? Okay, seeing no objections, show the consent agenda approved as modified. We have no public hearings tonight. We have no unfinished business. Then the reason everybody's here tonight, our general business item 12.1, adoption of resolution 2025-1042, the pride flag raising. So, who would like to start us out? Councilmember Sherlock, you proposed this last time we were here. Would you like to start? Say anything? Add anything?
I can start by making a motion if that's all right.
Feel free.
I move approval of resolution 2025-1042, the resolution to authorize the annual raising of the pride flag at Newcastle City Hall each year during the month of June.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2025-1042 to authorize the annual raising of the pride flag at Newcastle City Hall each year during the month of June. And Councilmember Sherlock, would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. I think I've spoken to this a lot, but I'll just reiterate that this is really important to a lot of people to feel safe and welcome in our city. It doesn't cost us anything. We will still raise the American flag and the state flag and the POW flag when we're supposed to. Those will all be higher than the pride flag on the flagpole. So I don't really see any reason not to do this unless you want to make it clear that you're not welcoming of that community. So I fully support this, and I hope that my fellow council members will join me in voting for this.
Councilmember Charbonneau, you seconded. You got comments?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, thank you folks for being here. I think, I looked at this, I think the setup we have here, right, I think with folks being able to speak, folks being able to email in, I think it can create a lot of pressure. I think it can create sort of a, what I believe personally is more of a false dichotomy of we need to do action A or do action B. And sort of make it seem it's easy to categorize it in our brain as do it or not do it, and not look at the broader context. So, I heard the gentleman talk about we want to stick to city business, and that involves police and fire and roads. And and I think for the King County Sheriff's Office that celebrates Pride every June, that provides our police services. I think for them doing that and that small gesture, I think that is city business. For the Bellevue firefighters that provide like nationally awarded firefighting service for us, they also recognize Pride every June. And I think for them that's city business as well. There's a gentleman who talked about not seeing a flag in Issaquah or Kirkland or Winville or King County. I'm sorry, all four of those entities raised a pride flag in the month of June, including every city surrounding us. And I think, I heard a lot of, people that are on both sides of the issue or even neutral talk about wanting to, put this to the ballot, right, and talk about this. I heard Commissioner Troutman is really diligent about emailing us, and he emailed and asked a question about it, and our city manager described that we can't, in this form of government, put it to the ballot in any way. And I understand that might be confusing for folks, but just the short version of it is we can't put this on the ballot, right? This is something for the council to decide. So I thought about it, and I tried to look at our history, and I realized that Newcastle actually did vote on something kind of similar to this. And that was in 2012 when the state of Washington was voting on referendum number 74, which was the referendum to approve same-sex marriage in the entirety of the state of Washington. It was the November 6th, 2012 election. And I realized that when you look at that data, I could go and pull results by county, and then when I pull results by county, I can pull them by precinct. And I can pull them by the 14 specific precincts within the city of Newcastle and see how in 2012 Newcastle voted on that specific issue of taking something that wasn't legalized to legalizing same-sex marriage. Again, I think that's a much bigger step to take than raising a flag, but I think it's a good pulse for the discussion we're having tonight. So that election had 82.36% turnout in the city of Newcastle. There were slightly less people than 10,794. There were 6,590 registered voters. 5,428 people voted. That's 82% of them. 3,245 folks in the city of Newcastle in 2012 approved this referendum for same-sex marriage in the state, and 2,183 did not, or voted against this referendum for same-sex marriage in the state. So my colleague mentioned a 60-40 proportion. It was a 60-40 proportion specifically in Newcastle voters to approve same-sex marriage in the state. So, we talk about it's easy to feel a lot of political pressure in these settings. I really, really dove into the data for this. I don't take it for granted. And I think this, I was going to talk about the LGBTQ youth as well. And I think a lot of folks spoke to that in the 2024 U.S. National Survey on the mental health of LGBTQ young people. But the thing that stood out to me the most was that LGBTQ plus young people who reported living in very accepting communities attempted suicide at less than half the rate of those who reported living in unaccepting communities. And I can't think of a better way to be an accepting community than to raise a flag that everywhere else around us and all of the entities we contract with also do. And I can think of a very clear way to be portrayed to our youth as an unaccepting community. So that's why I'm going to vote to raise it. That's why I seconded it. And, you know, I do appreciate the public comment talking about I'd like to take the annual format to take a stand against the annual rehashing of this, of putting out loud anti-LGBTQ sentiments. I think we as a group can talk about it before we come, and I think we can, as shot behind closed doors, it doesn't need to be a battleground between folks and long meetings every time, in my opinion at least. So I appreciate you coming. That's why I feel passionate about this motion. I think we should move forward with it.
Okay, I'll entertain any other comments on this motion. Councilmember Burford, go ahead.
So thank you, Mayor, and thank you everyone for coming again. I have read all the emails to the council and to myself, and I have heard so many residents and so many visitors and tonight, and from email and from conversations. So thank you so much for being such an engaged residents. So I think to raise the pride flag, the matter, I think inclusion and belonging matters, really matter. Uplifting marginalized, underrepresented, and targeted community matters. It sends a powerful message that our city truly values, welcomes, and protects LGBTQ+ individuals, fostering an inclusive environment where everyone can thrive in the city of Newcastle, in our community. Flying a flag to let the citizens know that they are welcome in the community is not forcing a political agenda on anyone. It's a humanity. I work for the Bellevue School District and also City of Bellevue. They fly every year in June in support of LGBTQ community. And my school district, a lot of teachers' classrooms, they display pride flag year-round. I echo what Councilmember Charbonneau mentioned, talking about LGBTQ youth, their mental health, and also LGBTQ educators. My dear educators, this is my 19th year with the Bellevue School District. They are beautiful human beings. So I want to send this loud and clear message to our Newcastle residents, to all the visitors. We care, we welcome. We want to really, really give everyone a welcoming environment. Also, it will help our business. People know we council, Newcastle's vision, as Commissioner Kim invited us, also restated, and a few other speakers tonight. I feel strongly that it's not people mentioned as personal agenda, political agenda. It is not. It's truly, it's essential. How we display a flag just to show all the citizens they are welcome. You are welcome. Everybody is welcome. So it isn't imposing an agenda. It's promoting acceptance, and it's humanity. I want to say it again. So that's my statement. Thank you.
Councilmember Griffin.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. As a city council member, I'm having quite a little problem figuring this out. You know, it's hard to believe why we're here. This is a social problem, and governments are not supposed to deal in social problems. This is not the place for city business. This kind of stuff is not city business. It's not. It really isn't. It's too bad that we have situations where we are, because we've got council members who who has an oath that they have to follow. They have to be fair and have to look at themselves, and it's really difficult. You know, I see what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, but for us to put together a program that sets aside a small group of people, and we're supposed to say, well, yeah, that's a thing to do. I don't believe it. I think this is not city business, and we should not have been dealing with it. It should somehow be able to be taken care of another way. I appreciate you folks coming. I appreciate what I hear from you. I have no problem with any of you. I have a problem with being forced to change the city government to put a flag on the flagpole where you say it makes you feel safe. How does it make you feel safe? I don't know. I have a problem with that. That's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Other comments? Okay. As you can imagine, I might have a few words to say. First of all, thank you everybody for coming, and if you emailed, thank you. I know you emailed, a lot of emails came in the last couple of days. I didn't have time to respond to any of them, but thank you very much, and I appreciate the civil discussion that we've had tonight, right? That's absolutely the most, you know, the best thing that I can have imagined that has happened, right? We heard everybody, everybody's respectful. Thank you. So we hear a lot about, you know, we want to celebrate everybody's diversity. And I heard a lot of people say, let's celebrate everybody's diversity. That's great, and it's in our mission statement. But does anybody know what was February? It was Black History Month. Did we celebrate Black History Month? Which council member up here suggested that we do that? Oh, there wasn't. How about March? Women's History Month. We had Women's History Month in March, but I didn't hear anything about that. Arab History Month was in April, and this month is AAPI month. But again, we get crickets, because is it really about inclusivity, or is it about this one group who wants their agenda placed on our city? I don't have any problem with people flying their flag at home, doing whatever they want. It's your right. And I'd like to come back to Councilmember Charbonneau's survey. You know, in 2012, the same-sex marriage vote, that's a vote to allow people to do what they want on their own. That's not you're not telling the city that they have to do something. That's quite different than raising a flag. The AAPI committee, right, they formed a committee a couple of years ago, like some council members, and then they had a meeting and only 4 or 5 people showed up. And then the committee just disappeared. We never heard any more about it. And why? I mean, what is the difference between tonight and the fact that we didn't talk about Black History Month, AAPI, Women's History Month? It's because this group is really loud and vocal. Well, good for you, but that influences people on how they vote up here, because they're more worried about the politics than actually about the group's concerns, right? That's my personal opinion. But the evidence speaks for itself. If this room had been filled with women demanding that we do something for Women's History Month, you can guarantee there would have been something that was done. So let's not say that we all love diversity when really they're not all about diversity all the time. Because if they were, my fellow council members who are going to vote for this tonight, we know how the vote's going to go. We already all know that. But are they really cared about diversity? Then if they are, why don't we prove it? Why doesn't it happen all the time? I don't see it. But on the flip side, we have an American flag that always flies over our city that represents every single person. And in a couple days, as I mentioned, we're going to celebrate and honor and recognize millions of men and women who died so we could have these freedoms. They didn't go to war, didn't sacrifice their lives for the pride flag or any other flag, for the American flag. Right? I served under the American flag. A couple people in the audience served under the American flag. It's all inclusive. It encompasses everybody. It doesn't say you get something special and you don't get something special. By recognizing and saying your group is special, you're necessarily saying you're not as special as that group. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's not the role of government. Now we have obviously different philosophies of government. My personal philosophy is no secret. The government is very minimal, stays the heck out of people's lives, it provides the basic services, and you do what you want on your own time, utilizing your First Amendment rights. You want to fly 52 pride flags on your home property or at your business, knock yourself out. Stand on the street corner with a pride flag. Go for it. I don't care. If somebody harasses you, call me. I'll be the first one there to defend you. But I'm not going to tell the rest of Newcastle that you have to honor and respect this symbol that doesn't represent you. I don't. You don't have to, fly a flag at your home if you don't want to, but why should the city then tell you you have to respect or honor this particular thing? That's the hard thing I have. I have no problem with the pride community, all right? In fact, I'm bully for you for showing up and asking for what you want, right? That's what government is all about. Advocate for yourselves. But I would encourage you to do it a little differently, right? If you really want a community acceptance, use the example of Lunar New Year. Councilmember Burford did an outstanding job renting the school. I mean, she had help, obviously, but renting the school, having a great Lunar New Year celebration. She didn't put a flag up at the city hall saying, y'all have to recognize this. She said, here's the celebration. Come over here if you want, or don't come if you don't want. I was more than happy to go and support her because somebody wasn't telling me that I had to honor and recognize that. And she has come and supported veterans on Veterans Day, and I'm grateful. But the difference is that is completely optional. If the pride community, rent the school, have a celebration, invite people, I'd come. But when you tell me that I have to do something, I'm not going to do it. You're telling me that I have to believe what you believe, so I'm not going to. But if you had an inclusive and an open celebration at the school and you made it optional, sign me up, right? But there's a big difference in how we're approaching this. I'm not going to support something that tells all of the people of Newcastle what they should think, do, or say. We just can't do that. So, consider that. I know what's going to happen. We all know what's going to happen. We know where the votes are tonight. But in the future, consider you get a lot more inclusivity. That event she had was well attended. Nobody in Newcastle objected because they weren't being told they had to go. It would have been much different had it been a mandatory or there was a flag flying. I guarantee you we'd have the same situation here. So I encourage everybody to think about this differently and approach it differently. Instead of saying you have to believe what I believe or you have to respect my symbol, I don't demand that we fly a Christian flag. I'm a Christian, like a cross up there. I could do that, but that wouldn't include everybody, so I'd never think about doing that. Right? I would never do that. I wouldn't make you, there's options for me. I can go to church, right? So Councilmember Griffin said here earlier that we had emails. We had about 190 or something. I lost exact track. But it was about 70 to 30 split. Now we heard that, well, that's too small a number to really care. It depends on what side of the issue you're on. Last year we heard that those numbers were great and it was important. It was a good survey. But now this year the numbers are the other way around, so it's not important and we don't need to pay attention. So I would argue that it's an accurate sample. People who are passionate about this issue wrote to the council. They sent in their comments. That is very reflective of the community, absolutely. It was about 70 to 30. So it just reflects what's actually out there. That's all. A couple more things. Hold on. One of the things that really bothers me, and some of it was in some of the emails, and we heard it here again tonight, that if we don't support flying the flag, we're anti-gay, right? That is an extremist position. That makes no sense, right? Nobody on this dais, and if somebody can go back into my past and find out where I did an anti-gay comment, I'll give you $100, right? You can't do it, right? Because I am not anti-gay. I am for everybody in the community. It's a challenge. You waste your time, but don't use terms that are inflammatory, like we're anti this or anti that. No, we are asking for everybody to be recognized. Okay, that's all I have to say. All right. We have a motion on the floor.
City Clerk, I would call for a roll call vote.
Very well. Let me read the resolution or motion first. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve Resolution 2025-1042, a resolution to authorize the annual raising of the pride flag at Newcastle City Hall each year during the month of June. So City Clerk will do a roll call vote as requested.
Councilmember Burford.
My vote is yes.
Councilmember Sherlock.
Yay.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Griffin.
No.
Councilmember Quigg.
No.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lakotia.
Yes.
And Mayor Clark.
No.
4-3, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. The motion passes 4-3. Okay, all right, and again, thank you all for coming tonight for that issue. I know you're all here for that particular issue. Okay, next up is general business item 12.2, which previously was item 9.6. Councilmember Quigg, you asked for this item. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You guys can leave. The rest of it's pretty boring. I brought this up for the same reason I made my comment earlier about the passing of Norm Peterson. It's just the way I was raised. I was raised on cheers and community, and I was also raised with my mom playing her favorite game growing up. My mom would come home, and we played a game she called Guess How Much. And my sisters and my dad and I would try to guess how much whatever she bought was, a jacket, a pair of pants, and we'd always go high because her favorite part was to tell us, nope, it wasn't 90 bucks, it was 25 bucks. And you know, she saved so much money. So I was growing up watching what I spent and learning to pinch my pennies. So when I went through the agenda this weekend from preparing for my meeting with City Manager Pingle, I saw we're gonna buy a truck for $107,000, and that caught my eye. And so yesterday I was in a meeting with Scott, and I said, why does this truck cost this much? And he had a really good answer. And then he brought Director Bronze in, who gave an even better answer. And the reason I'm doing this now is not to vote on the issue. It's gonna go up 7-0. We're gonna pass this. I just want you guys to know how hard this staff works and how hard your council works to watch the pennies that enable her to give you the glowing report we did on our city budget. The reason we're in the state of affairs financially is because these people are looking close to the budget. So Director Bronze, I'm going to hand the microphone over to you. Before we vote yes, can you please explain to these fine people why this is the best deal we can get on replacing that service truck, and then we can take a quick vote. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Excuse me. Thank you, Councilmember Quigg. I just clarify, so the truck itself is just under $82,000 for a 2025 Ford F-350 four-wheel drive. And then the service body, the equipment and lights is about $36,600. So just a truck complete with all as outfitted is that total price. One of the reason we get these trucks, the Newcastle's trucks do get a workout during storm events. They're running 24/7 and reliability is key. We typically replace these trucks, the frontline trucks, on about a 10-year replacement schedule, sometimes sooner, sometimes later, depending on the individual truck's reliability. In Washington, there's a mandatory bid process for purchasing vehicles. Anything over $50,000 has to go through a formal competitive bidding process. And like most agencies in the city, we utilize the state contract for purchasing vehicles. So it's a common mechanism. Basically, you've got a larger bidding pool, so you've got a state competitive contract where lots of vehicles are purchased. So the other option would be for us to do a formal bid ourselves, but we're bidding for one truck. So there's not as much advantage for a dealer to provide a good price. Also, the challenge would be trying to find something specifically aligned with our bidding specs, whereas with the state bidding pool, you have flexibility in ordering, it's known pricing, and you basically specifically order that truck as is. So we get exactly the options we want. Yes, so this ensures that we have the best value for the new vehicles we purchase.
Thank you, Director Bronze. I just wanted people to hear you explain what you explained to me. That's actually a great deal on a truck we need desperately, because the truck that we have right now is falling apart, right? And we can't have Connor driving his bicycle around. He's going to do the snow plows and take care of the next bomb cyclone. We need them having good vehicles. So do I have to make a motion? Oh, golly. You're going to have to help me out, Jane. I'm sorry, I know your voice hurts tonight. There we go. Thank you. Commissioner Charbonneau to the rescue. I move to approve Resolution 2025-1040, approving the purchase of a new vehicle and equipment to replace vehicle N018 and declaring vehicle N018 as surplus as presented.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2025-1040, approving the purchase of a new vehicle and equipment to replace vehicle N018 and declaring vehicle N018 as surplus as presented. Any discussion desired? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on, that's the conclusion of our general business. We are up to additional public comment. As a reminder to people, as they come up to the podium, you have 3 minutes to state your issue. Oh, okay. The city clerk has reminded me that we're not taking comment on the same issue twice. Pardon me? The same person, excuse me, not the same issue. So yes, if you testified earlier on one issue, same issue, yes. We ask you to turn your remarks to something else or change your remarks. Okay, you have 3 minutes. We'll ask you for your name and neighborhood. When the buzzer sounds, we ask you to wrap things up. So first up, Jen McAleer. Come on up, Jen.
Hey there, I'm Jen McAleer. I live in China Creek with my wife Stephanie and our 9-year-old boy. I just want to thank everybody who came here tonight to support the LGBTQ community. It means a lot to me and my family, and the work cannot be done without the allies who stand beside us. Additionally, I want to thank Council Members Son Burford, Paul Charbonneau, Pradama Lacosia, and Ariana Sherlock for once again showing your support for marginalized communities and voting yes on the resolution tonight. And for those who decided not to support the resolution tonight, you should know that in the end, love always wins, even if some folks still haven't figured out where they fit in that big picture. We aren't there yet. But to borrow a phrase from Senator Ted Kennedy, the work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Next up is Owen Gape. Owen? Turn on the mic.
Oh, there we go. Hello, Mr. Mayor, council members, and residents of Newcastle. I'm here, I live just down the road here off of May Creek. I'm a member of Eden Church. It's a church that's been around here for about 70 years, much longer than the neighborhoods that's been around here. I want to address really quickly, there's a Facebook page, a Newcastle Facebook page, and on that there has been comments thrown around with regards to Eden Church, and my pastor Darren, who just gave the speech earlier, with regards to us being somewhat of a non-tolerant, to being racist, to being hateful. And I want to tell you, that's the farthest thing from the truth. If you want to find out as a resident in Newcastle, I want to encourage you to come to Eden Church and check it out for yourself. It's evident in the way that all the comments that were made here for the American flag. Our church is a church that has representation of people from every single continent on the earth, on about 30 different countries around the world. And Pastor Darren is the farthest man from what you would call a hateful or intolerant person. He's truly a shepherd in this community. And if you doubt that, I really encourage you, come to our church and see it for yourself. Now, that being said, somewhat has been said here regards to the pride flag having to give security or make people feel welcoming or feel at home. I think it's a misdiagnosis of issue that's much deeper than what we think the pride flag will fix. It doesn't matter. You can stack the pride flag all around the city or every single homes in this nation. It will still not address the issue. The heart of the issue is that at the core of the being of people that are struggling, they have chosen to live contrary to the very created design of their creator. And when you do that, you declare war on your very identity. And that means you cannot live in peace with your own self. Therefore, you need continual affirmation, continual patting on the back. And regardless of how many social proof we can get, that's not going to solve the issue. The issue is that we need to see that we've been made in the image of God. And until you acknowledge the design God has created you, that will never change. The reason why we look to the state as the source is because we've replaced God with the state, and something that was intended to be healed by God, now we're looking to the state to solve. The state will not solve your heart problem. You have to look to God. And
I have to ask you to wrap it up soon, Gordon.
And to finish my statement off, the American flag is a flag that represents every single person. It's a misjudgment of those of us who say that American flag represents all of us to think that we are hateful and intolerant, because we are not. We will fight for your rights to fly a flag. But all we are simply asking for is that that flag came at such a price, and to have special privileges does not help promote the continuation of the freedom that the flag represents.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Darren Stott.
Wow, that Darren Stott at that Eden Church sure sounds like a great guy and a great place. Just wanted to take a quick second, just say a big thank you to our council, to the city staff, to the commissioners. We had a great tragedy, real tragedy in our city recently, and we had the opportunity of hosting a vigil at Eden, and the response was tremendous. I was especially impressed by the emails that I received back, the timely emails. I think everybody at the city that we invited responded back within hours. I wish I could say about my own staff responding back to emails. The event itself was tremendous. Involvement from council members, from the mayor. It was really an amazing night. The community showed up. And we had the opportunity. I mean, the Hope Dogs were there. Project Be Free, which is the grief counselors that were involved in our city, were there. It was really a cool night. So I just also wanted to say a big thank you to our police officers in the city. They're doing such a tremendous job. To our chief. So I just wanted to hit on that. Do I have 2 minutes? Is that right? Okay. Different issue real quick. When I was in high school, I was 16 years old. One of my best friends committed suicide. It wasn't a sexual thing. It was a depression thing that he was wrestling with. When I was a little older, 18, another one of my very, very close friends also committed suicide. It feels unfair and maybe even emotionally manipulative to attach teenage suicide as a reason for a symbolic or a political raising of a flag. If we're concerned about teenage suicide, and we had better be, this goes so far beyond a flag. I did a funeral for a teenager during COVID. He couldn't play football anymore, couldn't go to school anymore. And so if we're concerned about teenage suicide, we should revisit our politics, because the politics in our state caused a lot of teenage suicide. We chose to follow the science. And that was a far bigger issue than the flags that we were flying. So if you care about teenage suicide, let's move beyond a flag and let's get involved with these teenagers. It's a lot more than kids wrestling with sexual confusion. Kids are wrestling with depression, and that is a pandemic. And it's not just affecting teenagers. Thanks.
Thank you, Darren. Stephen Vimes. Stephen?
My name is Stephen Vimes. I live in the Walker's Run condominium complex. I'm here once again to bring up the subject of our city's usage of the flock surveillance cameras. And once again, I urge you to cancel our contract with this company. My concerns about this technology have always been about the power of its invasiveness and the eagerness in deploying it without proper understanding of the system, nor the company that we have contracted with. Flock should not be trusted. Despite their stated mission goal, they are not interested in preventing crimes and are instead using our city streets for harvesting the data of our residents. This became more clear last week with reporting from 404 Media, which relayed Flock company conversations about making the jump from tracking license plates to tracking the driver. In June, Flock will be rolling out a software service that they are calling Nova, which will take its database of license plate numbers and scrape the internet for all available information that is tied to the vehicle's owner. This won't just be limited to publicly available information. This will include data that is packaged and sold by data brokers like Equifax and TransUnion, which can include information such as, but not limited to, addresses and social media data. They have also stated that they are willing to use data that has been illegally obtained through third-party hacking of another company's servers, such as the 2021 data breach impacting users of the Park Mobile Pay for Parking app, which included license plate numbers and their owners' associated email addresses, phone numbers, and in some cases, mailing addresses, which means this company that promotes law enforcement is actively encouraging cybercrime. For local context, according to the Newcastle Flock portal, the 6 cameras in Newcastle detected 184,640 vehicles in the last 30 days, with only 190 vehicles triggering their hot list. Now, despite Flock's opaqueness by not giving context as to whether these are individual vehicles or multiple scans of the same vehicle, you can clearly see that we are giving them a massive treasure trove of data to compile on the chance that 0.1% of our city's traffic could be related to a crime. Every license plate number that is recorded by these cameras is no longer just being locationally tracked, but will be linked directly to the life and activity of its owner and anyone they are associated with. That is way beyond the scope of public safety that these cameras were sold to us on. We need to shut this down before it causes any harm, and we need to ban the use of these types of systems by any public or private entities within our city. I will remind everyone that nationally, people are being literally put behind bars for writing an op-ed. We should not be providing authoritarian powers with more surveillance structures to abuse us with. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Trey Powell. Trey?
Hi, my name's Trey Powell. I live on just past the Red Bridge on 95th Way go past Coal Creek to get there. Heard a lot of opinions about the pride flag, and for certain members of our city council as well, like Mayor Clark, you're a veteran. You would of course support putting the POW flag up on the pole, despite them being a massive minority of our American population. But you have a problem with certain vocal minority voices, like the LGBTQIA+ community, having a say or having a flag up there. Why are we honoring POWs who are dead, but not our citizens who are alive? Because we value the sacrifice that was made, right? We have citizens that are alive today that are suffering, and they're asking for help, and they're feeling ignored. So how can we say that we're going to be welcoming and supporting and a loving city when we're turning a blind eye to that? Why are we having such a big fight over a flag? Who is being harmed by the flag being up? I don't think anyone is. But we have people that are telling us that they're being harmed by the flag not being up. They're not feeling heard. They're not feeling represented. They're not feeling loved by our city. Why? Why is this such a continual issue for this? People keep bringing religion into this. People keep bringing political opinions into this. If we're going to stand and support each other, we need to be able to do that in a way that people can feel heard without feeling oppressed. That's it.
Next up, Jessica Villanova. Push the button in the center at the base. There you go.
Hello. I want to say thank you to all of you. Much like my initial comment, my final comment is not going to be very political because, as Councilmember Griffin stated, this isn't really much of a political matter at all. And so I heard a woman say, like, love wins, you know. But I would say that I don't think pride is synonymous with love at all. I actually don't think the two have anything to do with one another. And pride in this context especially. Pride in this.
Yeah, Jessica, we ask that if you have a different topic to speak about, you know, you're welcome to speak, but yeah, if your remarks are about something different, then.
Oh, absolutely, yes, no, yes, thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Stuart Blocker.
So I'll start my question in reverse order because you wanted it to be different than when I first spoke. I tried to ask the question at the meeting at the school a month or a week ago, half a month ago. And I seriously have this question and I'd like to restate it. And that is the focus of the city staff and council has been largely on the improvement of Newcastle Way, which I think could warrant getting that improvement in time when we have the funds. But I drive Golf Course Road quite frequently and May Valley Road quite frequently. And both of those roads are so dangerous, so hazardous to most of the people that are using them because of pedestrians, bicycle, and even just vehicle traffic. I would honestly like to have someone of the city staff or the council indicate to me why Newcastle Way seems to have a higher priority than something like Golf Course Road, which we know there have been fatalities on because of trees and because there is no sidewalk or bicycle lane, and so it's very hazardous. I don't want to go bang on about this, but I'm concerned about our priorities for street improvements. So I'll leave that there. Then I'd turn to Ariana, and Ariana, I'd apologize to you for having inadvertently named your family when I was only seeking an example of someone where I certainly don't disrespect any person. So I ask for your forgiveness if that embarrassed or in any way offended. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Is there anybody signed up online, City Clerk? No. Okay. That concludes our comments. Just one comment to Mr. Blocker. We do discuss all the capital projects in coming up soon. It'll be actually next month, and the priorities. I encourage you to look at those and comment at the appropriate time. It'll be in the month of June. It should be. And then, you know, I just briefly, I mean, for the second time in a couple of months, I'm just flabbergasted that somebody thinks there's an equal sign between the POW flag and the pride flag. Oh my God, if I got to explain that, that is a sad day. That's all. Planning calendar, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things just to point out for the council and for the community. Like I mentioned in my city manager report, we'll have the end of legislative session report at the next meeting from our legislative or our state lobbyist, along with Rep. Zahn being in attendance. And really the focus of the June 3rd meeting, as well as then the June 17th meeting, will be our transportation improvement program. So June 3rd, we'll have the draft program in front of the council, and that'll be our main time for discussing those priorities with the intention of then bringing that back with any adjustments to the June 17th meeting for adoption. And then we would plan on, at the June 17th meeting, also then discussing the capital improvement program for stormwater and for parks.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I would like to add an agenda to the June 3rd meeting.
Go ahead.
City manager, I just make a motion, right? Okay, so I move to add to the agenda a resolution to proclaim month of January as Lunar New Year and month of October as Hindu Heritage Month every year.
Okay, so we have an agenda item to proclaim, to create a resolution to proclaim the month of January and the month of October as Lunar New Year and Hindu Heritage Months respectively every year, and it's been seconded. So, remind me, City Manager, we got to vote on this one, right?
Yeah, you got to vote on it. Can I just get some clarification?
Please.
So the expectation is that we would put a resolution in front of the council and I would imagine those should be separate resolutions, or are we doing one for both?
What would you like, Deputy Mayor?
I mean, whichever is convenient, whichever is easier.
I think it's better to have them separate.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, been moved and seconded to add an agenda to create a resolution to proclaim the month of January as Lunar New Year month and the month of October as Hindu Heritage Month every year. Deputy Mayor, you want to speak to this?
No, I think we'll discuss when the time comes. I just
Okay.
went back to the agenda.
Councilmember Charbonneau, you seconded?
I would just say that I think I really appreciate Deputy Mayor Lacotia, who, in our 31-year history as a city is the only, and I've checked, the only Hindu identifying person to serve on this council. And I know she's not going to be continuing her service after this year, but I think putting, doing what a lot of other cities do and doing it on an annual basis, I think that makes it very special, and I hope you'll come back in subsequent years for future Hindu Heritage Month proclamations.
Okay, so read out the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, hold on. We'll do it again. Aye in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, opposed? No. Okay, motion passes 4-3. City Manager, you have what you need for that? Very well. Anything else, City Manager?
That's it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We are adjourned.